Hey guys, welcome back. Alright, so in the previous lesson we covered a use case for supply chain and logistics using blockchain technology. And now we're going to shift gears a little bit and we're going to shift to another use case, which is going to be leveraging and token share ownership of the blockchain application, right? So just to recap, earlier during the course, we said that token share ownership represents the way you can actually provide, using blockchain technology, you can divide specific shares into tokens, which people, buyers, investors will be able to buy into a property or any other asset, and they'll be owning a specific share of that asset as an equity share. When that asset is actually live, in the case of a property or a hotel, for example, when it generates revenue, by the end of each year, the profits distributed, each investor or buyer who actually bought that token share ownership would receive his equal equity share into his account. So for example, if you purchased a token share asset into a hotel, for example, when the hotel is operational after the first year, when it distributes the profits, you would receive a 10% equal to your equity share of your token share ownership as a profit range into your bank account automatically at the end of every closing year, fiscal year financials, right? So that's essentially how the token share ownership works. Now we will be looking at a specific use case for an infrastructure project for the government, and which is also going to be using a token share ownership. Let's go ahead and start. Okay. All right, so let me just brief you a bit about this use case. So this use case, it's called MetroCoin, and it was submitted last year to Consensys Academy, and essentially deals with Dubai Metro. Dubai Metro is the public transport unmanned train station that moves from station to station and carries passengers just like any other public transport in any other city. Now, this specific use case came up as basically to use or leverage token share ownership to be able to build a brand new metro station in Dubai, between Dubai and Sharjah, which Sharjah is a neighboring emirate of Dubai. It's about 30 minutes away from Dubai by car. And currently a lot of the people who work in Dubai, they live in Sharjah. So the daily commute has a lot of traffic congestion. So the idea was to be able to build a metro station in Sharjah and be able to help alleviate the problem of traffic congestion between Sharjah and Dubai. So this use case came up as an example, or as a submitted use case to how to build an actual metro station by leveraging 50% ownership as token share. Let's go ahead and take a look at how that works and why does this present an attractive value proposition for a government to be able to build a public transport station by leveraging token share ownership and minimizing their infrastructure costs by almost 50% in building that station by leveraging token share ownership for the public. All right, let's go ahead and start. So the name of the scenario is called MetroCoin. So you got here the Emirate of Dubai is facing. So in every scenario, when you define the scenario, you specifically define the problem. Again, we said earlier, the clearer and the more detailed the problem that you define, the easier it is to address that problem in your actual blockchain solution, right? So the Emirate of Dubai is facing a major problem in traffic congestion between Dubai and Sharjah on Sh Zayed Road. Sh Zayed Road is basically a major highway between Dubai and Sharjah that carries people. It has, I think, about 8 or 9 lanes, I believe. The traffic congestion is the heaviest during weekdays in the early morning between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. Also in the evening time between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m., which is due to the most professionals were leaving the workplace to head home. This traffic congestion is even worse during the month of Ramadan. In comparison to all areas in Dubai, traffic congestion between Sharjah and Dubai is the worst, since it contributes to the following problems: increase in accident rates. Emergency response vehicles are not able to reach their destinations in due time. Delays in construction work for road maintenance and expansion activities. The Dubai government now entity, which is called RTA, Road Transport Authority is essentially a government entity of Dubai that is responsible for traffic, highways, roads, infrastructure projects across the Dubai Emirate. Now, RTA is proposing to have a metro link that connects Sharjah to Dubai in order to provide the option for the drivers to use instead of driving their cars. By installing or by creating a metro station on each of the Emirates' entry points, Dubai and Sharjah, RTA aims to reduce the traffic congestion on Sh Zayed Road by 40% during rush hour times. The metro stations assigned would have a train going from Sharjah to Dubai every 20 minutes. The cost of construction and operation for 2 metro stations would be extremely high. Hence, RTA Authority is considering an alternative forms of funding for such a project. One of the options being considered is a blockchain solution where a shared ownership can be provided as an investment option. Right? So the exercise here is, please provide an option to leverage a blockchain solution for the metro chain project and to describe how blockchain can be implemented to meet the needs of RTA, of this solution, right? So basically, here's a scenario. Obviously, you guys can research this. Building the Dubai Metro costs about $7 billion and they have multiple stations. So you can only imagine constructing one single train or metro station in Dubai is probably maybe about 20, 30, maybe $40 million, right? So the cost of infrastructure is huge. And of course, with the government being strapped for funding, now they're looking at alternative forms of funding for them to be able to build this. So now we're saying, okay, how can we leverage a token share ownership, which will provide us 50% of the funds as a cost for us to be able to build this metro station, right? So if you take one example, one metro station would cost maybe 20 million. We would want to be able to divide $10 million into a token share ownership using blockchain technology and divide that and float it into a marketplace where average public individuals will be able to purchase token share ownership into that 50% of the equity share of that project. And then when it goes live, each owner of that equity share would receive a profit percentage assigned to his bank account based on his token share ownership. So if you, for example, owned a 10% token share ownership in the Dubai Metro, in let's say the Dubai Metro Sharjah station, then any profit determined or coming in from that station, you'd receive 10% every year into your bank account as part of your token share ownership. Does that make sense? All right, let's go ahead and dig into the questionnaires now. So, the first two are pretty straightforward, right? So what is a business area? Transportation, public transport. What problem are you trying to solve? Dubai's government is facing a high traffic congestion between Sharjah and Dubai that we said earlier. Many people who work in Dubai live in Sharjah and hence they commute daily, creating an intense rush hour traffic in morning and evening daily. Dubai Transportation Department wants to build a metro station that connects to Sharjah and creating an alternative, safer mode of transport, and Dubai's government is facing a challenge to raise the required funds for this project. Hence, the Transportation Department is created a metro chain to launch the project on a blockchain platform. What is the value gained by solving this problem? So, again, if we're not contributing to a value, it doesn't make sense to go for this problem, right? If you're not getting any specific value in terms of saving costs, saving time, improving your revenues, improving your profits, then it does not make sense to even go and solve this problem. So what is the value created? MetroChain aims to place the Dubai Sharjah Metro Link project on a blockchain platform using STO, security token offering option, allowing the general public to purchase partial ownership token shares in this asset, whereby individual investors can purchase token shares of the asset and receive profit sharing on an annual basis. Traditionally, such government assets were limited to institutional investors and a minimum investment amount. By choosing an STO platform, any individual, regardless of his or her income status, can purchase a fractional share, a token share of the MetroLink asset and enjoy the profits after it becomes operational. This is a very important point here because high stakes or high profile government infrastructure projects were almost always limited to high net worth individuals, high profile investors, institutional investors, banking institutions, and so on, where they were actually benefiting the most, the corporates, the corporations, or the high net worth investors, whereas the general public were not being able to even participate in such a project, right? So in this, for the first time in the history now, and in such a project using this technology of token share ownership, average individuals, people who want to be able to purchase, let's say $20,000, $30,000 worth of this token share, would be able to do so on this marketplace. And hence, by a big advantage here is you are increasing your geographic demographic. Instead of targeting, let's say, 1,000 high net worth individuals, now you can target, let's say, 500,000 to 1 million people with smaller share offerings. And this opens up the opportunity for these infrastructure projects to be able to actually to leverage and improve their way of selling their token share ownerships, right? Alright, this created an equity ownership for the public to add a supplementary income to their household. The Dubai government will be able to have a substantial pool of capital by having access to a large pool of investors with no limit on the investment amount. The government can also reduce transaction costs since the allocation of token shares will be conducted on the blockchain in an automated fashion, a peer-to-peer network, right? Which means that any individual who wants to be able to purchase, he would go in on the marketplace, the peer-to-peer network, and he would be able to make that purchase and buy that token share ownership based on his interest and his budget. The other value gained is that once live, the metro will reduce the traffic congestion and hence reduce the accidents on the Sh Zayed Road as a result of the project going live. Alright, number 4. Do they need a database? Yes, a database is required to store transaction details on it, right? Why is it going to be stored, or how is it going to be used? To store the transaction details on the database, right? When we say transaction details here, we mean that the person who wants to be able to purchase a token share ownership would be able to do so using this database. Does it require shared wide access? Yes, since there will be different participants involved in ensuring the security and integrity of the system, then the central bank along with the financial authority are required to have access to the database, right? Are any of the parties unknown or untrusted, or are they, if they are trusted, is it possible for them to have a conflicting interest? Yes, it is possible for certain parties to have a conflicting interest in the roads and records stored in the database. Therefore, a shared access is required to be able to account for the rules that are agreed upon between all parties. For example, access can be granted for Ministry of Finance or the RTA to have a direct read access to the token share system. This is this is a very critical point here, because typically your, let's say, regulation authorities, your auditors, your Ministry of Finance, your central bank do not always agree about the reports that comes out from any of those entities. Normally, you always have conflict between the central bank and the Ministry of Finance, disputing the different reports and the data that comes up from any of these entities. The central bank would say, this is my report, I issued it and it's correct. Ministry of Finance might say, no, I don't believe this is correct because this is my report and my data says otherwise. And so they get into a conflict. And this is why we're saying, okay, in a shared ownership database, we can actually grant access to both parties at the design of the application, which means we can take the requirements of the Ministry of Finance along with the requirements and the criteria of the central bank and design that into the shared ledger database, the distributed ledger, as part of the transactions that will be added to the system. So that means whenever transaction is added to the system, it takes into account the criteria from both entities. So when we produce the reports, when the system goes live, there is no room for dispute or error between the two entities because their requirements, their criteria was taken into account and designed as part of the architecture of the system, right? That limits and reduces the risk of bad data, incorrect data, or disputes between and conflicts between those two entities or other entities if they will be involved, right? Okay guys, I'm going to stop right here guys, and we'll continue on in the next video in the remaining of the question. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next. Hey guys, welcome back. Alright, let's continue where we left off in the scenario of the MetroChain project. We're going to continue on to the next questions and then we'll see how this actually adds value to an actual blockchain implementation for token share ownership. So, where were we? Alright, number 7, task 7. How will a blockchain be applied in this use case, and which component pieces will be utilized? MetroChain will utilize a public blockchain, Ethereum, a smart contract. Let me just see what we can do here. Okay, a smart contract will be created with the ERC20 standard to interact and exchange with Ether. Smart contract will allow the investors to exchange their MetroCoin tokens, right? The MetroCoin is the actual token implementation of the project. So MetroCoin is like a Bitcoin in the Bitcoin blockchain, right? Ether is the coin for Ethereum. MetroCoin is the coin for the MetroChain project. So investors will be able to exchange their MetroCoin tokens with Ether in order to maintain its value. This process of exchange will allow the investors to easily buy and sell the MetroCoin tokens with Ether in the marketplace. Okay? A public blockchain, Ethereum, will be used here in order to benefit from the built-in security of the Ethereum network. Now remember, Ethereum is the second largest blockchain network in the world after Bitcoin, and due to its popularity and resiliency, it proved to be very secure and robust to be able to handle multiple applications or decentralized applications on its network. The ERC20 is the standard which is required in the Ethereum blockchain network for you to be able to program specific functions and procedures into your application for you to be able to interact with Ether. Remember, the MetroCoin, as a coin, it has to be able to exchange with Ether to get its value. So Ether has a, let's say, a daily value of about $180 for each Ether value. So when I say one MetroCoin is going to be equal to 1 Ether, I'm giving the MetroCoin an actual monetary value, which gives it an actual weight in the marketplace for people to be able to purchase and exchange. And to be able to exchange the MetroCoin with Ether, choosing Ethereum presents an advantage as it supports high TPS, transactions per second rates, that the investors and owners can benefit from when there is a high number of transactions. Okay. Okay, so now as it supports high TPS rates that the investors and owners can benefit from when there are high number of transactions. The IPFS. Now IPFS, it stands for an interplanetary file system. Again, it's called interplanetary file system. Essentially, it is a technology developed by Consensys, by the creators of Ethereum. It's a decentralized file storage facility or option for you to be able to store documents on it off the blockchain, right? It's completely a separate network from the blockchain, which allows you to store documents, information, images on this network and be able to use it and leverage it into your blockchain application. So it's using a decentralized fashion, which is similar to the blockchain, but it is different, it is separate from the blockchain network. So the IPFS platform of Ethereum will also be used here in order to store the identification documents of the investor in order to comply with the KYC and regulatory rules that would be in place by the central bank. Storing these private documents on IPFS represents an added value and lower cost option for MetroChain, since the platform supports similar security measures to that of Ethereum. Now, this is using IPFS is actually optional. You can store your documents on an Amazon AWS platform. You can store your documents on a Microsoft Azure platform. You can store the document on your own infrastructure, on your server platform, if you choose to, right? In this case, IPFS, because it has a close relationship and high security layers built into the network, and you can easily tag it and link it to your blockchain application. Remember, blockchain is a transactional based system. You're storing text records or transaction records. You cannot store images on the blockchain. You cannot store voice MP3 files or MP video files, MP4s or .avi files, or any other video format on the blockchain. It will not allow you to. You cannot store any kind of images and documents and let's say application data on the actual blockchain, right? It's a transactional based system. It's all text based. You're storing transaction records on this system, which is what makes it extremely fast to operate, right? So these kinds of files and images and documents and Word documents and Excel sheets can be stored off the chain, so off the blockchain network, into a separate storage facility. In this case, they're using IPFS, which could be any other hosting platform to store those documents. Will the blockchain use be public, private, and consortium, and why? The blockchain use will be public for investors to be able to purchase the token shares on the marketplace. Since the MetroCoin will be exchanged via actual Ether value, hence it will have a cash value. The transaction data between the investor, the buyer, and RTA, seller, and the issue of the tokens. Remember, RTA are the people who issue the tokens for the public to be able to buy from it. It will be recorded on the public Ethereum blockchain based on the wallet addresses. Now here's what this means. Today, whenever you send 5 Bitcoin to your friend Mike in Australia or in Canada or anywhere in the world, that transaction is actually publicly registered on the block scanner. And anybody can go to the block scanner and view the transaction details. They will see the wallet address, they will see the sender, they will see the receiver's wallet address, they're going to see the amount being sent, they will also see the timestamp of when it was sent and when the transaction actually completed and the recipient received the Bitcoin units. Now, what they cannot see is they cannot link the identification of the sender to a specific person or identity, because there's no link, there's no relationship, right? And the same thing with the receiver of the Bitcoin. You will not be able to know who that receiver person is, what is his identification, where he lives, what is his email address. You will not be, or even his phone or his name or phone number. You will not be able to link the wallet address to that individual because there's no system that allows you to do that. And that's the beauty part, because you're maintaining the privacy record of that in those individuals and users, and allowing them to trust and be able to send and receive Bitcoin units. So in this case, the same thing's going to be happening here. However, the information will be exchanged within public blockchain network to mitigate the risk of security and fraud and malicious activities, right? It's an added advantage. But the identification, now, are there any external networks that will need to be leveraged for this use case? And if so, what are they? If not, why does the existing infrastructure will work? Yes, transactions traded between the token assets will be stored on the blockchain system's backend. However, customer information such as the people, the buyers of the assets, of the tokens, and the sellers such as name, address will be stored in external storage system in order to limit the possibility of data breaches, right? That's clear there. Number 10, is a token to be used to digitize an asset, store value, or to provide access to the blockchain? Yes. A token of exchange, the MetroCoin will be the token of exchange, which is the exchange of value. It will be required to represent ownership stake in the shares issued and to make it easy to trade on the platform between investors and MetroChain owners of the asset. The benefits it provides is that it lets the sellers trade their token share assets to the buyers, creating a trading marketplace with automated and low transaction costs. Now, what this means is, think of it of a stock market. On a stock market, you're able to go in, make your trade, buy your stocks, and get out. This is going to be a very similar fashion as a marketplace, only you're buying a token share ownership, or token share assets. You log into the platform, the system, the web-based system, and you see the MetroCoin asset as a coin, and you're saying, okay, so let's say RTA listed by owning 10 MetroCoins, you'll equally be able to receive 10% equity stake in the project, right? Your 10 MetroCoins is equal to 10% token share ownership into the actual Metro chain, building the Metro chain or the Metro station project for Sharjah, for that specific station. So what that means is your profit will be earned every year as 10% from the total profit generated from that station. So if that Metro station, for example, generates $100,000 in profits in that year, you will be able to earn $1,000, a 10% stake in, and then you'll be earning and receiving it to your bank account as part of your token share ownership, right? We would be imposing a condition for the investor that once he or she purchases the MetroCoin, she would not be able to sell it until the project is launched live. And this is a way just to protect the investor's interest and the project interest. I'll leave that to you guys to go through and read it when I'll put it up in the actual course. But I'm just going to skip here to the actual workflow. So RTA will issue a MetroCoin supply cap at $5 million, representing a 50% share ownership of the required funds for the project. So in this case, just to make it simple, we assume the project value of building a metro station is $10 million, and $5 million will be issued as 50% token share ownership for the public to be able to purchase into or buy into, right? The remaining 50%, the $5 million of the project, will be funded by external funding, either by the government or by different individuals who will be able to put that investment up front, right? So we're saying the $5 million will be divided into token share value of MetroCoin. Hence, one MetroCoin unit, MC, is equal to 1,000 USD, giving allocation of 5,000 MetroCoins, right? So there's 5,000 MetroCoins. Each one is worth about $1,000, right? Any buyer can purchase up to a maximum of 100 MetroCoins, giving a value of 500 share ownership. There will be a restriction on the MetroCoins, where each investor or buyer will not be able to sell his MetroCoins until the project is live and fully operational. This is a way to maintain the price points of the actual coin and to mitigate the risk of actual people just flipping it, buying and selling and buying and selling, and thereby crashing the value of the actual coin. Once the two metro stations are operational in Dubai and Sharjah, the marketplace will be open for investors to list their MetroCoin tokens for sale. The MetroCoins can then be traded in the marketplace to be purchased and sold by the individuals who are interested. Now, a very important point here, guys, right? What we're saying here is this. Let's say the project goes live and you actually own 10 MetroCoins, giving you a total of $1,000 equity share in the project. So 10% stake in the project. So what happens is, let's say after a year, you want to be able to sell your token share offering. You can again go to the marketplace, put your token share, your percent share, your token value into the marketplace and say, I want to submit this in the marketplace for it to be able to be traded or bought by any other individuals for buyers. And it's going to sit there, and then you can set the price. I want to sell it for 10% higher than when I bought it, or 20%, thereby creating a profit margin on your actual token share asset, right? Just like in stocks, you want to be able to buy the stock and then sell it, put it up in the marketplace for other buyers who would be interested in selling it for whatever price, and so on. Now, obviously, this is a very advanced use case. In this case, it would require many legal hurdles and legalization of laws for it to be able to be operational. But however, now we know what blockchain can do in such specific use cases, in such high-profile government projects, to be able to build, let's say, a hospital, a government-funded hospital, or let's say an amusement park. If you want to be able to build if the government wants to be able to build an amusement park and it's going to cost them $50 million or $100 million, they can float 50% of that into the actual token share ownership. So you can see the opportunities are endless. It gives you a new form of funding. It gives you access to a much broader liquidity within the market, and it gives you large access to demographic of capital that were not previously available to be reached in other projects, right? And that's the beauty of blockchain, what it can do. As new economic models unfold, you'll be able to see what else we can do in these kind of similar fashion, because this can be applied to almost any asset. Not only real estate, it can be even corporations' assets. It can be even investment product assets. The same thing can be divided into specific token share represented for people to buy into. I'm just using the example of real estate in this case, or infrastructure for Dubai Metro, just because it makes the easiest sense for us to understand, right? I hope it's clear, guys, and thank you again for watching, and I appreciate your time into this. I hope it adds some value to you for you to be able to start thinking about blockchain. And I'm going to stop right here, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next lesson.